You're not welcome here! The words exploded from my mouth, raw and unfiltered, as I stood on the porch of my new Montana ranch, my voice swallowed by the vast, open plains. My name's Tom, a 58-year-old retired mechanic who'd spent decades wrenching under cars in a gritty city garage. My wife, Clara, and I had scraped together every penny for this moment. 50 acres of rolling hills, wildflowers, and the promise of a quieter life raising horses. We traded concrete jungles for starry skies, leaving behind nosy neighbors and petty rules. Or so I thought. The moving truck was still idling in our dirt driveway, boxes of our old life stacked haphazardly on the porch. Clara was inside, humming as she unpacked our chipped coffee mugs, dreaming of mornings watching the sunrise. I was hauling a table to the barn when a red SUV tore up the road, kicking up a cloud of dust that choked the air. Out stepped Karen, the kind of person you spot a mile away and know means trouble. Sunglasses perched on her head like a crown, a clipboard gripped like a gavel, and a sneer that could sour milk. She marched toward me, her heels sinking into the gravel, radiating the kind of self-righteous fury only an HOA president could muster. I'm, Karen, head of Pinewood Estates HOA, she announced, as if I should bow. Pinewood was a gated community a mile down the road, all manicured lawns and cookie-cutter mansions. My ranch, it was raw, untamed, and, most importantly, not part of her domain. I'd triple-checked the deeds. No HOA, no covenants, just freedom. But Karen didn't care about facts. You can't just move in here without approval, she barked, jabbing a manicured nail at my rusty pickup. This area has standards, and your shack is an eyesore. I laughed, thinking it was a joke. My shack was a sturdy, century-old farmhouse we'd spent our savings to restore. But Karen's eyes narrowed, her lips curling into a smirk. You'll need to submit to our aesthetic review board, she said, thrusting a stack of forms at me. Curb appeal matters in that truck? It's got to go. I pushed the papers back, my patience thinning. Lady, I don't answer to you. This is my land. Her face reddened, and she scribbled something on her clipboard. You'll regret. This, she hissed, storming back to her SUV. As she peeled out, Clara stepped onto the porch, her brow furrowed. Tom, what was that about? I shook my head, trying to laugh it off. Just some busybody. She'll get over it. That night, we sat on our porch swing, sipping coffee under a blanket of stars. Clara's hand rested on mine, her voice soft. This is our fresh start, Tom. No more city stress. I nodded, but unease gnawed at me. Karen's threat lingered like a storm cloud. I'd dealt with bullies before, shop foremen, shady landlords. But something about her cold, calculated glare told me she wasn't done. Little did I know she was already plotting her next move, one that would bring sirens to our doorstep. 2 days later, I was wrestling hay bales into the barn, sweat dripping down my back, when sirens shattered the quiet. My heart skipped a beat. 2 police cruisers rolled up our drive, red and blue lights flashing like a scene from a bad cop show. Clara rushed out, her apron dusted with flour from baking her famous blueberry muffins. Tom, what's happening? She asked, her voice trembling, eyes wide with fear. I wiped my brow, trying to stay calm. I don't know, hon, I said, but my gut churned. This wasn't random. Deputy Harris, a broad-shouldered man with a buzz cut and a no-nonsense stare, stepped out of the lead cruiser. His partner, a younger officer with a nervous glance, followed. Mr. Thompson, Harris said, his tone clipped. We received a report of illegal trespassing and unauthorized construction on this property. I blinked, my mind racing. Trespassing? On my own land? Construction? The only thing I'd built was a wobbly chicken coop for Clara's hens, hardly a skyscraper. There's got to be a mistake, I said, my voice steady but my fists clenching. Before Harris could respond, a familiar red SUV screeched to a stop, dust swirling like a tornado. Karen stepped out, her smirk so smug it could have been framed. She wore the same sunglasses, now pushed back, and her clipboard was still in hand like a badge of authority. "That's him, officers," she declared, pointing at me like I was a wanted felon. "He's squatting here, ruining our community's property values with his junkyard truck and that hideous house." Her voice dripped with venom, and she paced like a prosecutor in a courtroom, gesturing at my pickup and our weathered farmhouse. I took a deep breath, forcing myself to stay calm. "Officer, I own this land," I said, pulling out the deed, purchase agreement, and a folder of paperwork I'd kept handy. Bought it fair and square, no HOA, no restrictions. Harris took the documents, his eyes scanning them carefully, but his face gave nothing away. "We'll need to verify this," he said, heading to his cruiser to radio in. The younger officer, who looked barely old enough to shave, stood awkwardly, clearly uncomfortable with Karen's theatrics. Karen, though, was just getting started. She launched into a tirade, her voice rising like a siren. "This man is a menace. His truck is an eyesore. His barn's a hazard. And don't get me started on the noise. We have standards in Pinewood Estates." She gestured wildly, as if my ranch was single-handedly tanking her neighborhood's value. The younger officer shifted, glancing at Harris, who was still on the radio. Clara stepped closer to me, her hand gripping mine. "She's trying to run us out, Tom," she whispered, her voice shaking. "We just got here." I felt rage bubbling, but I kept it in check. I'd dealt with bullies before, pushy bosses, shady landlords. But Karen was a new breed. She wasn't just meddling, she was weaponizing the law to scare us off. I wanted to tell her to shove her clipboard where the sun don't shine, but I knew that'd only make things worse. Harris returned, his expression unreadable. "We're still checking," he said, "but we have to follow protocol." Karen's smirk widened, like she'd already won. Just as I was about to lose my cool, a black pickup roared up the drive. My son Jake was here, and he was about to turn the tables. The dust settled as Jake's black pickup skidded to a stop, the state trooper emblem on the door catching the sunlight. My son, Jake 32, stepped out, his broad shoulders filling out his crisp uniform, his badge gleaming like a beacon of justice. He's my pride and joy, a man who'd followed his own path to serve and protect. And right now, he was the cavalry I didn't know I needed. Karen's smug grin faltered, her clipboard trembling in her hands. Deputy Harris and his younger partner, Officer Daniels, straightened up, recognizing Jake immediately. In a small Montana county, troopers like Jake were known quantities, respected and tough. "Dad, what's going on?" Jake asked, his voice calm but edged with steel, his hazel eyes scanning the scene. I pointed at Karen, my frustration spilling out. "This woman's claiming I'm trespassing on my own land, Jake. Called the cops with some nonsense about illegal construction." Clara stepped forward, her voice soft but firm. "She's harassing us, Jake. We just moved in." Jake's jaw tightened, and he turned to Karen, his presence commanding the dusty driveway like a courtroom. "Ma'am, are you the one who filed this report?" he asked, his tone polite but unyielding. Karen stammered, her confidence crumbling under his gaze. "Well, yes, but he's violating community standards. His truck, his barn, it's all lowering our property values." She waved her clipboard for emphasis, but it looked pathetic now, like a child clutching a toy. Jake didn't blink. "I've seen my dad's paperwork," he said. "This is his land, free and clear. No HOA, no restrictions. Filing a false police report is a serious offense, ma'am." Karen's face went white, her mouth opening and closing like a fish out of water. It's a misunderstanding," she sputtered, stepping back. Jake wasn't having it. He asked for her ID, his radio crackling as he ran a check. The results came back fast, and his expression hardened. "Ma'am, you've got a history of false reports, complaints about suspicious vehicles that were just delivery trucks, illegal gatherings that were barbecues. You've been warned before." He paused, letting that sink in. Karen's eyes darted to Harris, as if he'd save her, but Harris was nodding, his own patience long gone. Filing a false report is a misdemeanor under Montana law, Jake continued, pulling out his handcuffs. And harassing a property owner outside your jurisdiction? That's another charge. The cuffs glinted in the sun, and Karen's bravado collapsed. You can't do this, she shrieked, her voice cracking. I'm protecting my community, Jake's voice stayed steady. You're under arrest for filing a false police report and harassment. He cuffed her wrists with a swift, practiced motion, her clipboard clattering to the ground. Officer Daniels, the younger cop, couldn't hide a grin, clearly enjoying the show. Harris gave Jake a nod of respect. Clara whispered, I didn't see that coming. I chuckled, relief flooding me as Jake led Karen to his cruiser, her protests fading into a pathetic mumble. The power dynamic had flipped, and for the first time since Karen's SUV showed up, I felt like we were back in control. Karen's arrest wasn't just a victory for us, it was a seismic shift for Pinewood Estates. Word spread like wildfire through the manicured streets of the gated community, whispered over picket fences and coffee clatches. Karen had ruled, with an iron clipboard, terrorizing neighbors for years with her endless rules and petty power trips. She'd fined people for unapproved mailbox colors, reported suspicious delivery trucks, and even tried to ban a kid's lemonade stand. Her false report against me was the final straw, the one that broke her reign. The consequences were swift and merciless. Karen faced a misdemeanor charge for filing a false police report, slapped with a $500 fine and 100 hours of community service, which, to everyone's amusement, included cleaning graffiti off a local park's benches. A judge also issued a restraining order, barring her from setting foot on our ranch or contacting us. But the real justice came from Pinewood Estates itself. At an emergency HOA meeting, neighbors, finally free to speak without fear, voted her out as president in a landslide. A quiet accountant named Susan took her place, promising a less dictatorial approach. Karen's red SUV was rarely seen after that. Rumor had it she was laying low, humiliated. For Clara and me, the ranch became our sanctuary. We settled into the rhythm of rural life, planting a vegetable garden with tomatoes and zucchini, and welcoming our first 2 horses, Rusty and Star, who grazed happily in the pasture. The chicken coop I'd built, the one Karen called unauthorized, was now home to 6 clucking hens, and Clara's fresh eggs became a morning ritual. Our farmhouse, once an eyesore in Karen's eyes, was alive with warmth, its creaky floors and weathered walls telling stories of our new beginning. Jake, our hero, became a local legend. He'd stop by for Sunday dinners, his patrol stories, keeping us laughing over Clara's pot roast. One night, he told us how Karen tried to sweet-talk her way out of the charges at the station, claiming it was all a misunderstanding. The officers just rolled their eyes. Jake's no-nonsense takedown had earned him respect, even among Pinewood's residents. Slowly, the neighbors we'd never met started warming up. A couple from down the road, the Millers, dropped off a homemade pie as an apology for Karen's antics. We were too scared to stand up to her, Mrs. Miller admitted. Others waved as they drove by, their cautious smiles a sign that the community was healing. One evening, as the sun dipped below the mountains, painting the sky in hues of orange and pink, Clara and I sat on our porch swing, wrapped in a quilt. The air smelled of hay and freedom. Clara leaned her head on my shoulder, her voice soft. Tom, we made it. This is home. I squeezed her hand, my heart full. We'd faced Karen's wrath, the threat of losing our dream, and come out stronger. Jake's badge had turned the tide, but it was our stubborn refusal to back down that secured this life. I looked out at the ranch, our ranch, and knew nothing could take it from us now.